That's cold-blooded. We'll say we'll do another. Well, this is probably unique to consulting. So in consulting, we bill per hour, right? So like we're probably billing between like 300 to 600 depending on the level. So if you can't get when they know someone's going to leave or get pushed out the door, they just won't staff them on projects, and then the company can use the argument that you're not billable or your utilization is too low, and therefore that's a performance issue. So because of that, because the management has colluded that no one's going to staff you, you get pushed out for performance problems, which I think is a genius, kind of cutthroat way to do it, but it's kind of genius.
Large law firms used to do that, is they would just make sure that somebody had the shittiest fucking clients and the shittiest caseload and, you know, things that would suck up a shit ton of firm time and resources. And then they'd look at that quarterly and go, okay, you billed this many hours and those cases brought in this much money and you're this much higher of a resource suck than these other people who are comparable to you. We got to get rid of you. Sorry, this isn't efficient. And, you know, you would have partners playing that game. And at bigger law firms, you'll have senior partners and named partners. And there's definitely some politicking game that goes into which associates kind of climb up the branch of which one of them onboarded them and brought them in. And you'll see that type of purging sometimes at the law firms.
Also will say, like, with layoffs too, like, it really is, like, so my company had a layoff last year, and apparently, like, okay, so one of my friends is a director at the firm, so apparently partners were overriding manager decisions to fire people or to put them on the list of getting removed, right? So they had a preliminary list, and then from that list, the partners were like, nope, we're keeping this one, we're keeping this one. So, like, sometimes middle managers can try and fuck you, and if you have the right leadership support, you can survive. It's super. I mean, life in general is super political, but.
Well, we had that a few years ago. So, for people who don't know, the court staff at federal courts are they work for the U.S. Marshal Service. They're U.S. Marshals, and under a particular department for the U.S. Marshal Service, and the Marshal Service was downgrading out particular positions and eliminating them and kind of restructuring in a way to reallocate budget. And so what happened is a lot of judges, so let's say one of my court staff that is a marshal assigned to my courtroom, they quit, they die, they leave, whatever, right? They're gone. They're replaced by somebody that I select out of the pool of who the U.S. Marshal Service makes available. And then it's signed on to by the supervising judge for that courthouse or that district. And so you can't just go pluck who you want, but you can pluck certain people. So what was happening is judges were firing their own staff so that somebody else could pick them up so that they were not available to be restructured or pushed out. And so you had this period where dozens of marshals were in between their old job and their new job and in a position where HR couldn't flush them out or couldn't reallocate them. And it was just a technical thing that if you were in the middle of that transfer, they couldn't touch you. Like, you were safely in this protected bubble, and certain people figured it out and it made its way through. And so a lot of the people who were supposed to be purged out held on to their jobs because the judges who liked them talked to other judges, and everybody just fired and transferred their staff around so that they were in this limbo interim transfer bubble of bureaucracy that takes fucking 40 days. And they basically survived the flood. And that type of shit happens in every industry. Which is why you should build relationships and, be a good worker, do your best, and build relationships with the right people, because when the floodwaters come, there's not enough room for everybody in the safety boat.
Titanic up in here. Half of these people have to drown. That's how corporate layoffs were last year. Like, people were, like, Deloitte was doing like 3 or 4 rounds of layoffs. Like, it's been a weird last few years in consulting. And
when you're assessing people in a tight economy and you're looking at a team of who are the people that you must keep, right? Where it would be painful if we lost these people. You start assessing what is the risk that they're going to leave on their own? What is the risk that, that they'll leave because of, some other, change that you're going to make that's going to, they're going to become less productive because you're making these changes. Typically, it's a very small number of people that you deem must stay. And if you have a company that's got great benefits and a lot of resources, you can throw money at it. You can say, hey, we're going to give you a payment, an increase in salary. We can also, if you don't want to do that, you can give, so you do the merit increase based on their performance, or you can say, hey, we're going to give you an equity grant. It's going to vest. That's a really good one because that locks them in. Like, so if you have good employees, you lock them into, a vesting period of, let's say vest every 6 months over a 2-year period, or vest every year over a 4-year period, and you start allocating, stock to people. This really works to keep the people that you want. And then, and then the people that you can, that you want to leave, you should not give them anything, because especially if they're used to in good times getting something, they know that what that means. And so oftentimes they'll say, fuck, if I'm not getting, they'll either be offended and want to go find something else, or they'll just say, oh shit, I'm on the shit list. I better find something before I get clipped. And you can just by doing shit like that, even if you have a planned workforce reduction that's coming later in the year, you can make sure that workforce reduction is a little bit smaller by getting people out of there before that time comes. The hardest part is the people in the middle, because your A players you're going to bend over backwards to keep. Your D players, they're the ones that are going to get, be out. You should never have F players. And then the question is, what do you do with your B's and C's? In good times, you're working to make your B players A players and your C players B players. But when times get really tight, how much are you willing to invest in your C players? And that's a really tough one, because some of those, it's hard to make a distinction sometimes between B and C players, and that can be it depends on how you measure it, like over a quarter, over a year, over the last 5 years. How am I viewing this B or C player? And so it gets tough. So if you really want to make sure you have job security, you should try to be an A.
I think that's true, but I think it's not even just like an A player. It's also like, I guess to be an A player, you have to have the political background just to validate that. So I guess I see where you're coming from. I was going to take it a different route. It's like you can be a great performer at your job and still not make it. Like we had a guy who got cut even though he was amazing at his job because he was kind of an asshole. But I guess that would really make him an A player. He was kind of an asshole.
Yeah, if you're a cultural problem, if you're somebody that makes people around you less productive, fuck off. Because then you have the only way that really works is if you're in the type of business where nobody has to see that person, and you've got one person that manages them that knows that they're an asshole, but it doesn't impact anybody else because there's no exposure. But if you're in a fucking office, rule number 1, don't hire assholes, and if you figure out that you have an asshole, do not allow their productivity to save them. Get the assholes out. They're just not funny.
Yeah, we have one lady. She got fired because 4 people who were reporting up to her resigned consecutively. So HR was like, oh wait, it can't just be literally 4 people back to back to back. The director was like, what's going on here? And then HR, the director, decided to fire the manager because she was such an asshole to these people, even though she was a top seller, that they were just it's not worth it. The turnover's too high.
I can tell you this as I work in at will or at employment states. So I can tell you that if I want to fire you, I can. I don't really need to stretch it too far. I can fire you because I don't like the way your hair looks that morning. Whether or not it's right is a different thing. All I have to do is weigh the risk against the unemployment insurance. And generally, most of you are going to go on unemployment for maybe 3 months, maybe at max, or you're going to start looking for a job because that unemployment insurance isn't going to match your salary, and most of it has a cap. You're going to top out at about $400 a week, so you're not going to stay long, especially if you were making 70 grand. So you're going to be hunting around, and I can take the risk that you'll win an unemployment insurance case, and you'll get those, and maybe that'll work for you. But most of the time, half of the employees don't do it. The other thing is HR doesn't work for the employees. It works for the management. It works for the corporation. They are not your friend. I'm going to give you this, and there's going to be people that are in HR that are going to be offended at this. They are not your fucking friends, no matter how, polite and nice they are. They take their orders from people like me. They take their orders from corporate, and whatever affects the bottom line, that's their initiative, and they will do whatever they say, and they will maneuver within the policies and the regulations to ensure that my will goes through and that you are fucked in the end. That's just a baseline thing. HR is not friendly to employees. It is a wasted department if you believe that it's for you. And Roger, no offense, but I like keeping the assholes. They're the ones on. I don't have to actually worry about them.
Nah, man, I don't deal with the assholes. Here's the thing. In my line of work, you're dealing with customers and you're dealing with other departments. Whether it's engineering, whether it's marketing. You've got executives that they have to meet with. But most importantly, they have to meet with customers. They have to keep customers happy. If they have asshole tendencies, I don't want them around anybody that's a valued stakeholder in the business. Regardless, if let's say they have phenomenal closing skills. Okay, great. I'll use that for a minute. But the moment I can fucking replace an asshole, I will. I'll take an A plus performer that's an asshole and fucking clip them. And then just bust my ass to make sure that I get somebody that could play at that level.
Yeah, it's so.
I don't work in that environment. I work in a project.
In the wrong term in client service, we could lose $500,000 contract if you have the incorrect asshole talking to a director of internal audit. She'll just fire the entire team or something along those lines. In these lines of we're also client facing, Roger. It's every single thing that comes out of your mouth has to be meticulous, right? And how you're communicating it, even your tone, right? You could be saying something with an aggressive tone to an upper level executive. They'll just cancel the contract and tell you to fuck off, So you have to be sensitive around these people.
I don't have client facing. Mine is production based or project based. And so I need people that'll actually get their work done. I have plenty of nice people that come through and I warn them, this is not client facing. You're not going to interact. Your engagement is going to be over facts and figures. You're going to have interdepartment relations. And that's about it. And the customer service exists within the company. And I do expect that. But overall, it's much more individualistic in the way I organize my teams and the way I organize my divisions. It's just basically you get your portions of the projects assigned, my leadership staff. I sit down with my supervisors and I tell them what my expectations are and I formulate that and they get it done. And I never have to worry. So the assholes, they do well in my type of environment, not with a customer facing one. I agree. Probably don't want those, but for me, the asshole gets the work done because all they want to do is just get there, get their shit done, and go home. And I let them. Once you're done with your projects, I don't care if it's you got there at 8 in the morning and you're done at 10, you go fucking home. It doesn't matter to me. As long as your work is done for the day, I don't fucking care.
Fair. This makes sense. If it's not client facing, it's a different situation. But I also think it's different, right? If you have a full team of assholes and they all like each other and it's an asshole community, so be it, right? People, whatever. But that's the culture fit that you guys have over there. But honestly, sometimes, like, even having these people around, like, they're not fun to get lunch with. They're not fun to go to happy hour with because they're always bitching or just being dicks for no fucking reason. And you're like, bro, like, calm the fuck down, like, it's just like that level of assholery. I would just like get rid. And we spend a lot of time together. Like, it's like, don't get me wrong, like 60, 65 hours a week with some fucking prick you can't stand. I'm like, for fuck's sake.
You're working for the wrong company. My employees never, I can honestly tell you, I pay them salary for 40 hours a week. But my employees, I don't think I have one that actually exceeds 30 hours ever. I think pretty much all of them are done by noon, 1 o'clock. They work remote. I rarely, unless there's an issue, I rarely call them. Team meetings, that's about it. And I try to schedule those in the morning so that they can get whatever they need to. And then I generally want my staff to have the afternoons off in the evenings. I don't want them to work to the bone. I want them to have a work-life balance. And I really want to push that through. But at the end of it, I just try to get them in and get it out. Like, again, I switch my company's metrics. I don't need you there for 8 hours. I need your performance and your production. I don't need your time. I need you to complete tasks faster and more accurate. You can do that. The more time you have on your free time, I don't really care.
Yeah, I think it varies.
We're not going to feel bad for Nicholas. Nicholas is in one of those highly paid climb the ladder fields, and he's young enough that he's in his work the hefty hour years. So Nicholas gets no pity for.
Wow, who's asking you, Brad? But anyways, you're right. But I will say too, it's very industry based. Like, consulting is notorious for this. Like, it's just the expectations in general. Like, 50 is the minimum, right? You can go plus from there, but everybody knows you do this shit for a couple of years, you get promoted, you make more money, and then you fuck off to like a nice corporate executive job, and you just hang out there, and you get there way faster than climbing the normal corporate ladder. So that's what people put themselves through this shit. But Brenda's right, we make significantly more than the norm for people our age, and you just do it because it's a phase, right? And then you get it out of the way.
You bust your ass and you climb the ladder and you build your reputation and you build your network, and then eventually you roll into the cushy jobs. It's the same fucking thing in the legal profession, right? I busted my ass for far less money than I should have made for a very long time to hit a point where I can comfortably sit my fat ass in my seat until the end of time and not have to slave to death.
We all did that. That's why we're where we're at. I am where I'm at. I mean, I swallowed shit. Like, let's be honest. I did stupid jobs under stupid people, under stupid leadership who made stupid decisions. Now I'm the stupid idiot making stupid decisions and being stupid leadership and getting paid exorbitantly for what they perceive my worth is. I just do a better job than most at it. So that's all.
It's a sneaky way to get into sales is go take a job at like a VAR, just a value-added reseller. These guys, they're doing some sort of like system integration or whatever, and you end up building your relationship with clients, reselling, like the who's who of the best shit that's in tech, and then now you have relationships with people that buy this stuff. People working for VARs, the owners are getting paid, but the salespeople get paid like dick. But mainly because, you're trying to get a margin on top of the product, right? So they sell it to you at a discount, and then you mark it up, and it's you're just reselling shit. But you do that for a couple of years, and then you can go to every one of those tech companies that you sold that shit to, and you could say, and you could go, you could go sell their shit. You could say, look, I've been selling your shit for a few years, working for this VAR over here, and then they have no problem because there's nobody that's going to walk in the door that's going to know how to already sell their shit. And so that's probably the sneakiest way to get into like the big tech companies is to just go work for a VAR. You don't even have to work for a big one. You just got to make sure you work for one that's a reseller of all the best technology and the companies that you would want to work for.
Yeah, adjacency has always been a nifty way to get into things. So I have my friend Steve and his wife Amy. So Amy owns in Connecticut and upstate New York. She owns a business that runs estate sales, and that's a very niche bubble. And her husband is a real estate broker, and probably a fourth of his business comes from the fact that the families she's in touch with on these estates have not yet picked out a real estate agent or a broker to sell the real estate that the family has. And so she gets hired to get rid of all the shit in the house or in the estate's things for estate sales. And in that conversation gets to tee up her husband to sell the homes. And a ton of his business comes from that. Like, adjacency is a nifty concept.
Fascinating. Tell me something that I don't know.
The stuff that Nick said about in chat, talking about the stupid asks that salespeople have. And you know what? You don't have to say yes to that stuff.
No, they get denied. Like when I was in a house working in the controllership group, like sales and marketing was the biggest pain in my ass because they would be like, "Oh, we want 15,000 for this." Okay, what is the point of this 15,000? Did you put it in your budget proposal for the year? No, but the event came up later. We want to have these really cool flyers, and finance is like, no. And then they'll be like, why? Like, you don't understand. Like, we needed to get finance, and we're like, we already told you no. Why are you coming back to my desk asking again? And then also, salespeople never fill out their fucking forms correctly for the commissions. So then when they get the incorrect commissions, they're split in their paycheck. They come back and bitch at us, and we're like, bro, this is the fucking form you incorrectly filled out. I cannot stand sales and marketing people. Like, I get it, we need them, but it's just a natural personality conflict between accounting and finance and sales and marketing. Also, they're always the loudest fucking people in the office. I could go on, and we would bitch about that nonstop. Anyways, I'm done, Roger. I still, on Clubhouse, I appreciate you, but in the office, I would probably hate.
Nah, you probably wouldn't. I'm actually kind of like I'm not really your typical salesperson. I typically get along with the other departments, which helps me when those kind of asks come around because I would know how to ask for those things, and I certainly wouldn't ask for them at the last fucking minute. In fact, I would be more likely to be the guy that would run around
I'm going to
finance and
turn
say,
my coach out
hey,
into a yoga meditation
I
so
don't know
I
why
can
they
put a
want to go
billboard
to
and
this
drop out
fucking
of the
event.
workforce
We've been to this
forever.
event before. It's never produced
Sick of
anything.
toxic-
Just fucking
sick
deny
of
it. Or ask them in their
toxic,
proposal
managers
for budget. Ask them to report how they've done over the last 3 years from that event and give you an ROI argument. And usually, like that just ends it because they know they can't prove that there's any ROI at these events.
They just want the open bar at their event. Let's be honest here. Which I understand, I guess.
I'll probably end up reactivating my broker's license and do local home sales.
Also, this is my last complaint of the night, and then I gotta go sleep. And whoever just designed the new open floor plans at these offices should be shot. Like, it's not like if you have to do like deep focus work in like a quiet environment, like in Excel for hours, like the open layout is extremely distracting for that type of work. Like, you can hear conversations across the hall or whatever. It's just like I kind of miss the traditional cubicles, and I know that sounds late, but I can't. They need to come back, but anyway. I gotta go to bed. Good night, y'all. God bless.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. But have a good night.
You too, man.
Everyone complained about the cubicles until they got that open floor plan, and then all of a sudden.
how it's analogous.
Okay, well, he's basically asking, does the judge fight with his wife? Meaning, does the judge humanize the actual interaction such that he's not just busy form-fitting all of his behavior? Yes, dear, no, dear. Everything is entirely civil and the white man's law, if you will. He didn't say that. I'm just adding that, right? But to his point, right, consequentially, he just wants humans to be in a primitive state of ongoing war and emotion. It's a primitivism, anarcho argument. I don't think it's successive for a cohesive society. I don't think he's thought about that in the slightest. But
Really quickly, before you go on and on, my argument was never that justice as we understand it today and how, as we practice it in our country today isn't infallible. I'm not saying it's infallible. I'm saying it's better than anarchy, right? It's a better model.
Right. And to that extent, I agree with you.
I'm just
Right,
saying,
Blue Eye, but I'm just saying he still can have an argument, though. He can still express
His argument is essentially because there are some chinks in the armor that we should just do away with all of it.
that ain't what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying. That is
Well,
exactly.
he didn't mention jurisdiction per se, which is different than just law. It's like law of one location
So
or
for the
something
record,
like
people
that.
like Louis make Americans look bad in total. I'm not advocating.
You gotta call somebody a retard and all this other crazy
No, it's
shit.
good. He got some personal against me.
Bro, you're new here, bro. So like you'll catch up. But fuck this nigga, and I don't give a fuck what you think about it. Fuck this nigga and everyone he loves.
But for the record, I'm not advocating for anarchy. All I'm saying is what you perceive as law, it ain't nothing but a high level of anarchy. That's all it is. It's just disguised as law.
Yeah, but you hate the white man also. You want us to go to war, and you should shoot it to death. As you brought up blood earlier today.
It's the white man, bro. The white man is not my problem, bro. Like, I can honestly say the white man is not my problem. Only I can be my problem.
It's the
So
state.
it ain't got nothing to do with race. No, it ain't got
You
nothing
just
to do with
said the white man ain't his problem. God damn.
No, I know, but the state is the law structure. So I'm asking, is it the state then that is your problem? Is it
Ain't
the
none of that my
implementers
problem.
of
'Cause
the
at the end of the day, whatever my destiny is, I got the choice to live in it. So if I wake up and don't want to listen to the government, that's my lot. Now whether I can either deal with it, I got the choice to either rebel or yield. That's my choice. Nothing can be my problem. So it's all me.
connive in between so you don't have to do either?
Civil discourse in
This is
America, ladies
another
and gentlemen.
trending and amazing effect.
You know what the it is, guys.
I don't know. I've heard of anarchists and primitivists.
Can I ask you a question?
Does not your government enforce this legislation through organized violence?
Wait, did you organize what?
Does not your government pass legislation and enforce it by organized violence?
Oh, well,
That's a good
threat of
question.
violence, yes.
That's a good question.
It's a threat of
That's a
violence,
good
yes.
question.
Meaning I'm agreeing, I'm sympathizing with it.
At the threat of violence, but it enforces said legislation, whatever it may be, whatever law, through organized violence.
Yeah, I'm just saying the violence isn't